Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant. It's December 7th, and this is Battleground. Hey, welcome back, everybody. And by welcome back, I mean welcome for those of you who tune in every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. We call it Super Chat. That's not a word we invented, although I sort of like it. Super Chat is a word Google invented for these hangouts on YouTube, where, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, it's a live chat, and you can make your live chat super, as we all want to be, by chipping in a few bucks or quid or pesos or rubles. That puts your comment in a bright color, and it appends it to the top of the little box there, so I see it out of the corner of my eye because I got my laptop going here. And the great thing about that is we get 70% of those revenues, which is a rare thing because, of course, YouTube doesn't give us a lot of money these days. They demonetized us. I'd like to talk a little bit about the UN Global Compact for Migration. It's something we've been focused on here for a few weeks at The Rebel. In fact, as you may recall, if you were with us last week, we went through it pretty much point by point. We went through 10 different parts of the UN Global Compact for Migration, actually reading the document itself and showing the substance of it, because you can't just say, oh, it's good or it's bad without reading it. You have to read it. It's only 34 pages. I counted the words by cutting and pasting them into a Word document. It's about 16,000 words. It's not that long. It's like, it's 34 pages. The language is a little bit dense, as in you have to read it slowly. You can't just skim it. But that's a sign that there's some actual meaning in there. There's lots of buzzwords, but there's actual meaning. I mean, just hold that on the screen there for a second. Look at the actual title. Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. So that is to normalize, proceduralize, legalize, and regularize the chaotic mass migration of the last 5 years. And look at the next sentence. Intergovernmentally negotiated and agreed outcome. And it's dated 13th of July 2018, even though the conference isn't until next week. Okay, you can take it down for a second. And the reason I read you that title is because the title is actually fairly honest for a UN document, isn't it? I mean, Orwell showed us that often governments call their war peace and their lies truth. I mean, Ministry of Truth was their propaganda outfit in that book, 1984. Ministry of Peace was what they called the Department of War. But in this case, I think the UN Global Compact for Migration is telling the truth. It is about normalizing, legalizing, regularizing mass migration. And by the way, it's a done deal. It is already done, which will come as a surprise to a great many people. Can you put on the screen that Latvian thing I tweeted the other day? Latvia, it's a small country in the Baltics. It used to be a Soviet colony, really. I mean, it was part of the United Soviet Socialist Republics. They called it a Soviet republic, even though ethnically the Latvians are different from the Russians. They were Russified. Russia brought in ethnic Russians to dilute the Latvian nature of Latvia. My point is, Latvia has only been an independent, free, sovereign nation for less than 30 years, right? Since the fall of the Soviet bloc. And the reason I mention that is because they still value freedom, independence, sovereignty, their own national borders, democracy, decision-making, because they're not complacent about it, because they've only been free for 30 years. So little Latvia, I don't even know the population of Latvia. I'm going to guess it's maybe 1 million, if that. I mean, I know like one Latvian guy. Their parliament, here we go. They call their parliament in Latvia, I don't even know how to pronounce that, the Saeima. I think that's their fancy, it's like, you know, Israel's parliament is called the Knesset. I think that's the Latvian word for parliament. But you can see the story there. Saeima rejects UN migration compact. Let me read the first line. The Latvian Saeima on December 6th voted to reject signing the United Nations Global Compact for Migration following a lengthy debate Saima voted by 43 votes to 31 to reject the compact after being given the effective decision-making power by the caretaker cabinet. The resolution, framed by the National Alliance, was an invitation to reject the compact so that those voting for the resolution were voting against adoption. I'll read just a little more. The vote count saw the National Alliance teaming up with the New Conservative Party and KPVLV something something, along with a scattering of Greens and Farmers Union deputies, which the Harmony, National Unity, and Ford, there's all these different party names. It's interesting to me that the Greens supported. Anyhow, okay, that's enough. Thank you for showing that. My point is, how come they get a lengthy debate and we don't? And by we, I mean pretty much anybody in the Western world, in the old democracies. Because the new democracies, like Latvia, that haven't forgotten what tyranny feels like, haven't forgotten what being colonized feels like, haven't forgotten what being ordered around by Moscow, in the case of Latvia. Aren't you a little bit jealous? Of course you know that Hungary has also declined. Do you want to pull up a headline of Hungary? Of course you know Poland has declined. Of course you know those countries that were under Soviet domination have declined because they are not yet self-loathing postmodern states like Western Europe is. And so they understand. I think also they've actually read it. Yeah, here's one. Poles and Czechs follow Austria and Hungary in rejecting UN Migration Pact. Anti-immigration leaders in Central Europe follow U.S. lead in opposing global framework. It is important to note that the United States is not signed on to it. Let me read a little bit. Poland and the Czech Republic are set to join Hungary and Austria in pulling out of a United Nations Pact on migration as populist Central European governments attack the deal before it is even signed. Oh, the nerve of them attacking it before it's signed. Yeah, it would be sort of stupid to attack it after it's signed, isn't it? The Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration was agreed to in July by all UN members except the United States and sets out norms for protecting and integrating people who migrate and ways to help them return home. Oh, is that really what it does? What's this paper again? Which one are we reading here? Can you scroll up to the top? Just give me a sec. Oh, the Irish Times. Okay, and yeah. Hey guys, did you know that this was about helping migrants return home? Yeah, I've read it. That ain't what it's about. Let me read just a tiny bit more. The pact is non-binding, so guys, don't worry about it. And recognizes each state's right to its own migration policy. So guys, just stop talking about it and trust me. But a growing number of anti-immigration leaders in Central Europe are now rejecting it ahead of next month's signing ceremony in Morocco. Quote, it is very likely that, like Austria, Czech Republic, and the United States, we will not be part of the UN Global Compact. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said on Friday. We believe that here our regulations, our sovereign rules on border protection and migration control are our absolute priority. A day earlier, Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babiš declared that he also opposed the pact. I don't need to read any more. I have gone through the 34 pages, and I don't want to just do a repeat of last week's show. And I'm sure there's people watching today who did not watch last week. You can find it on our YouTube channel. I went through 10 different quotes. You guys have them handy? Let me pull up a few, okay? Let me give you an example. You can go to that UN website. It's so easy to find. Just type in UN Global Compact Migration. It'll be in the first page. And click on it, and then you know how you do a word search on a website? On my computer, it's Command F, whatever, a search, find on your page. So I like to do that with big documents, just to test things. So I typed in the word rights, R-I-G-H-T-S, and it showed up 112 times. This is about turning foreign migration into a right. I typed in the word democracy, it did not turn up once. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through the different excerpts from last week. I'm just going to show you a few of them, and I'm just going from memory. We had 10. Let me show you a couple that I thought were powerful. Can you put the one about family reunification without skills? Because I think that's so practical, everyone will immediately understand. So this is the agreement. This is just one of, there's dozens and dozens of these things. Countries must, quote, facilitate, that means make easy, you got to read these things slowly, facilitate access to procedures for family reunification for migrants at all skill levels. That's fairly plain English, right? Like there's no fancy words there. They said facilitate instead of make it easy. Procedures, okay, that's fair enough. Family reunification for migrants at all skill levels. So that's fairly easy to understand. You don't need to be a lawyer. That means all these folks just walking into Europe, the folks walking into Canada, if they land at JFK Airport in New York, take the bus up to the border, walk across, walk into Canada. This UN Global Compact for Migration, you just saw it, I just showed it to you with your own eyes. Countries must make it easy for these folks to bring all their family in, regardless of their skills. Doesn't matter if you speak the language, doesn't matter if you have a high school education, doesn't matter if you have any job skills, doesn't matter if you're an employee, you just got to do it. And then that's the domino effect, because each one of those folks, it's an endless chain, isn't it? That's just one of 100 little time bombs in this pact. I'm just going to throw one more up because it's terrifying to me, actually. Do the one about the school curricula. See, this isn't just about bringing migrants in. They know that this is extremely unpopular. This is about propagandizing people, including schools. So promote school environments that are welcoming and safe. Well, who could be against that? And support the aspirations of migrant children by enhancing relationship within the school community, incorporating evidence-based information about migration in education curricula. Oh. Let me keep reading here. And dedicating targeted resources to schools with a high concentration of migrant kids for integration activities in order to promote respect for diversity and inclusion and to prevent all form of discrimination, including racism, xenophobia, and intolerance. So this isn't just about bringing the third world in. It's about shutting up anyone who says, yeah, this ain't working. Shouldn't Ireland be Irish? Shouldn't Italy be Italian? Shouldn't Scotland be for the Scots? No. We have to tell you how wrong you are. That is intolerance. You saw the word there. And we have to teach the children that it's intolerant to disapprove of that. And by the way, we have to send extra money to the migrant schools to help them out. So what's that got to do with migration? Nothing with the actual migration. Everything with shaping public opinion, because they know this is deeply unpopular. Those stupid journalists at the Irish Times. Strangely, they're opposing this migration treaty before it's even signed. They're crazy. Yeah, I think actually crazy would be signing it and then opposing it. That don't make sense, do it. I want to show you just one more because this affects us, and this is going to segue into my next point. Oh, by the way, I missed a super chat. I'm sorry. Let me go up there. Mr. Martijo chips in 20 Swedish kroner for fighting the good fight. Thank you for that. And I'm sorry I didn't notice that earlier. Can you put the paragraph 33 up? This is the one yeah, that's right. 33C. Tell me what this has to do with migration. The answer is nothing. This is about propaganda. Okay, I'm going to read this slowly, but again, there's no fancy words here. There's some euphemisms, but you could read this. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand this. Every government here, this is what they agreed to, must promote independent, objective, and quality reporting of media outlets. Hey, is that even a thing? Can the government promote independent and quality reporting. If the government's directing it, promoting it, it's not independent, is it? You can't have independent government media. This is a contradiction. Promote independent, objective, and quality reporting of media outlets, including internet-based information. That would include YouTube videos, folks. So the government is now compelled to promote quality YouTube videos. And how are they going to do that? Well, here, they'll tell you how. Including by sensitizing and educating media professionals. Hey guys, you're not sensitive enough. And the government says you need to be more sensitive. And the government says you're stupid because you have the wrong point of view. So we need to educate you so you no longer believe in national sovereignty. That's just a matter of educating you. Oh, really? Educating media, educating media professionals. So is that a fancy way of saying censorship? Or, well, let me keep reading. Educating media professionals on migrant-related issues and terminology. Oh, so you can't say migrants. You have to say, I don't know, beautiful, wonderful refugees, even though they don't meet the definition of the UN definition of a refugee, someone who is in imminent danger based on religion or race. Here's the next part, terrifying. Investing in ethical reporting standards. Hang on, so the government's going to invest in ethical reporting standards? Again, a contradiction in terms. If the government is telling people how to report, by definition, it is not ethical. If the government is directing your reporting, it is not reporting anymore, and it is not ethical anymore. It is government propaganda, it is a talking point, it's PR, but it ain't reporting, folks. Investing in ethical reporting standards and advertising, and so that's the carrot, and here's the stick, and stopping allocation of public funding or material support to media outlets that systematically promote what they call intolerance, and then their whole alphabet soup: intolerance, xenophobia, racism, and other forms of discrimination towards migrants. Well, hang on, intolerance, they call anything intolerant. They say if you're against their policy, you are by definition intolerant. I love those, I love those last few words. Oh yeah, guys, we're going to ban bad words, re-educate journalists, pour money into it. We're going to have new standards. But hey guys, full respect for freedom of media. Love you guys. No. We really love you guys. We really love you being free. We're just going to re-educate you. We're going to sensitize you. We're going to tell you the way to report. We're going to punish media who don't follow these rules. But guys, total respect for you. We totally respect your freedom, guys. Okay, guys? Yeah, not really. I see a super chat. Bill Howie chips in $5. Rebel will be the first victim of the UN Global Compact on Migration. Objective 1733D, redress mechanisms for wrong speak. Deplatforming, fines, re-education, jail. Okay, you know what? I was looking there at 33C, and I know we're on live right now, but I am going to take a moment to look what you're talking about, because it sounds right on point. So would you forgive me? I'm just going right now to the actual document. There we go. Thank you for your patience. We got it. D, establish mechanisms to prevent, detect, and respond to racial, ethnic, and religious profiling of migrants by public authorities, as well as systematic instances of intolerance, xenophobia, racism, and all other multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination, in partnership with national human rights institutions, including by tracking and publishing trends analyses and ensuring access to effective complaint and redress mechanisms. Whoa, you're so right. I shouldn't have stopped at C. So prevent, detect, and respond. So this has to be read together. C, paragraph C was promote good journalists, demote bad journalists. Paragraph D is bring in mechanisms to punish, detect, respond, and prevent, detect, and respond. I'm going to read E, since you got me on this. Provide migrants, especially migrant women, with access to national and regional complaint and redress mechanisms with a view to promoting accountability and addressing government actions to discriminatory acts and manifestations carried out against migrants and their families. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, other than there's supposed to be a national and regional complaint mechanism that governments have to promote. Wow. Yeah, so what's that got to do with migration? Nothing. What's that got to do with controlling opinions? Everything. That's about controlling opinions. Yeah, you can take that down now. Jason 333W chips in $20. Thank you for that. Would you agree with me that this document is much more than just a harmless document? As the Irish, you remember that article I read to you just a minute ago from the Irish Times, saying, oh, the document's really about sending migrants back. I mean, who would be so stupid as to oppose it without signing it? Yeah, they didn't mention what I just read to you. And I mean, look at it yourself. Look at it yourself. Just Google it. It took me 30 seconds to find it there. UN Global Compact for Migration. And just read it. You got to read it slowly, right? Because they do use some bureaucratic buzzwords. But their meaning is clear. Craig McDonald chips in $13.99. I received the items from the special awards package. Thanks. I also enjoyed our conversations on November 14. I'm curious about the secret perk listed on the Thanks a Million site. Did we speak of that? Thank you, Craig. Well, you know, the first rule about secret perks is that they're secret. Now, I will check to see the status of getting the secret perk. Let me talk to Lacey, who had for those who don't know what I'm talking about, we recently hit 1 million UN subscribers. YouTube subscribers. We don't have UN subscribers. We have YouTube subscribers. And if you go to thanksamillion.ca, no UN subscribers here, please. Just YouTube. If you go to thanksamillion.ca, you can see we had sort of a celebration, and we got these little pins. Do you want to go to thanksamillion.ca and just show people what they see? So there's me and my big mouth. If you scroll down a little bit, we have, yeah, keep going. I want to show the pins. So look at the pins. You see that? Hold there for a second. That is so nice. It is gunmetal gray. And it's a little pin for the Rebel. Scroll down a little more. And that's $50. And then we got the colorful 1 Million Club pin. And that's $100. And then go down a little bit. $500, you get both pins and a letter of authenticity and thanks that I sign. That's a nice one. Now that's $500, I gotta tell you. Scroll down a teeny tiny more. Special awards package. $10,000, sorry, for $1,000, and 9 people got those. You get the gunmetal gray, you get the colorful one, you get the plaque, and you get the secret perk. So I got to tell you about that on the phone. I'm not going to say it to the world, because first rule about secret perks is they are secret. If I haven't called you yet, I apologize. Let me hurry up and make the call. Craig McDonald Bobblehead? Got it. Yeah, the secret secret perk is not a bobblehead. Okay, sorry for the banter. I do read every super chat, so I deviated from our talk about the Global Compact a bit there. Fraser McBurney asked, it wouldn't be so bad if we could reunify families from our country back to their countries. Well, yeah, but that's not what they're talking about. Someone chipped in $20 and says message retracted. Okay, I don't know what message that was. Okay, I think we're all caught up on the super chat. Okay, we got to focus here. It's 12:25, we got 35 more minutes. I'm going to take people to rebelun.com in a second. I'm going to show them our letter to Ahmed Hassan. But first I want to show the mashup video that Martin made. All right, you want to get that one ready? Of Hassan and Trudeau. Okay, so we've been talking about the Global Compact for Migration. Jason33W chips in $20 and says, keep up the good work. I love Canada, but as an Albertan, I will gladly separate to not have the rest of Canada mess around with our oil patch and livelihood. What are the chances that Alberta separates? Well, I have to tell you, under Rachel Notley and Justin Trudeau, those chances are getting bigger every day, and I have to say I haven't seen this much anger since Doug Christie packed the Jubilee Auditorium when I was 9 years old. I didn't go, but I read about it later. For his Western Canada Concept Party, you may recall that that Independence Party actually elected an MLA provincially. So there's an anger now, and I think it's as big as it was back then. It's actually bigger, because it's stupider now, the attacks on Alberta. Back to the story at hand. Fair enough. You know what? We'll talk about Alberta politics more, but I accept your points. I just want to finish my point on the Global Compact for Migration, okay? But if we can, I'll come back to that. So read the document. It's 34 pages. You can find the time. Read it slowly, because you have to understand what they're saying. There's not a lot of technical words. There are some euphemistic words, like that have slightly hidden meanings, but you can figure it out. You can figure out more than that Irish Times reporter did. Hey guys, this is just about sending migrants back. Yeah, stop lying. I acknowledge there is one line in the 34 pages about that. And then there's 34 pages on the other side. I told you the word rights appears 112 times in the document. So we've been talking about this for a couple weeks, maybe even a little bit longer. And we announced that we're sending David the Menzies. David the Menzies. Can we have the Caravan Reports B-roll? Throw it up there anytime. So Menzies, buddy of mine, great journalist. He's been a reporter since 1984. I didn't know he was that old. He got a degree in journalism from Ryerson, went to work for the St. Paul Journal in St. Paul, Alberta. And he's been working ever since. He's written for Maclean's Magazine. He's written for Financial Post. He was an assistant editor, senior editor of various magazines. The guy's been a lifelong journalist. He's got a sense of humor too, but he's a journalist. He doesn't do other things. He's a journalist. He's been working for us for 3 years. So as you can see on the screen, we sent him down to Mexico to embed him with the migrant caravan for 4 days. What do you think of that? That is real reporting, people. Look at that. He was right in the thick of it. He did 27 videos. Viewed more than 1 million times. Look at that. That's a great shot. Look at that truck. Party truck. Woo! Party in the truck. Is that the fraternity truck? There's David. Look at him. What a handsome man. God, that's a good-looking man. David Menzies. He's taken, ladies. I've met his missus. Sorry, you missed out. That big lug of a guy. 27 videos. So you see my point? He did real journalism. He sometimes does journalism from our studio, but we sent him there. Look at that. What's going on there? Not a lot of women and children, are there? Not a lot of women and children. There, David. Sorry, ladies, he's not on Tinder. I checked. So David, who has real journalistic experience, a journalism degree, been doing journalism for 34 years, went down to Mexico, did great job. By the way, he'll talk to anybody. That's one of my favorite things, but I'm just making fun of him. He's actually a friend of mine, and I rib him a little bit. I don't think he would mind me having a little bit of fun. He'd return it in kind. He's a real journalist, and he has a point of view, but he's very fair. In fact, amongst those 27 videos he did, he interviewed a lot of migrants, a lot of migrant activists, and some far left-wing activists, including a far left-wing journalist from San Francisco who's to the left of Obama. So, I mean, you got to watch those. Great videos. Fair guy. Fair dealer. Absolutely fair guy. So he's going to do a great job. We're sending him to Morocco. And we've been talking about this, and we got 1 million viewers on YouTube and lots of views. And then suddenly, Justin Trudeau's government in Ottawa made a decision to demonize the Rebel because of our coverage of this issue. And so day after day in Canada's Parliament, in question period, Trudeau and his cabinet were reading a scripted reply attacking the Rebel by name. Little old us. Handsome David Menzies. Oh, they're just jealous of him. Here, take a look. Take a look. We did a little mashup. Take a look.
It is disappointing to see the Conservatives and the member opposite engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
It is disappointing to see the Conservatives engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
It is disappointing
to see the Conservatives
engage in peddling
rebel media
conspiracy theories. It is disappointing to see the Conservatives engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
It is disappointing to see the Conservatives engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
Yeah. And that's not it. I mean, MPs started tweeting it. That's the official line, which is flattering in a way. The Prime Minister on down. You notice they were reading from the script. That's why their language was identical. What happens when can you put up the $595 million Globe and Mail story about the $595 million bailout to the journalists? So, put this all together, people. I read to you paragraph 33, C and D from the UN Global Compact for Migration. 33C was the one that talks about re-educating journalists and defunding bad journalists. And D was one about detect and reply to bad journalists. Combine that, let's call that Exhibit A, case for the prosecution. This is Exhibit B. This is a story in the Globe and Mail a couple weeks ago. Media sector gets $595 million package in Ottawa's fiscal update. The federal government unveiled a $595 million package over 5 years to help Canada's media sector, including measures to facilitate blah, 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 blah. This is a $600 million bailout to journalists, but only the ones that Justin Trudeau approves of. So Exhibit A is the Global Compact for Migration, paragraphs 33, C and D, how they treat dissident media. Exhibit B is the $595 million bribe to educate media. Exhibit C is the condemnation in Parliament by no one less than Justin Trudeau and Ahmed Hassan, the immigration minister, of the rebel, by name, repeatedly. And do we have the UN's letter to David, that very short letter? If we have it, great. If not, don't worry about it. So David, I mentioned to you, handsome David as I call him, bachelor. He's not a bachelor. He's going to Morocco. And then all of a sudden he gets a letter from the United Nations saying, sorry, you can't come. And the explanation is they don't like his point of view. If we can get the actual wording, great. If not, we'll just show the letter in which we refer to it. Here it is, here it is, here it is, here it is. See that wording there? This is an excerpt from the letter from the UN. Your media accreditation request with reference number blah 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 has been declined for the following reason, and then 10 words. Outlet activities not compatible with the status of accredited journalists. What? David's been a journalist for 34 years. So David wrote back and said, what's up? And they write back, we reserve the right to deny or withdraw accreditation of journalists from media organizations whose activities run counter to the principles of the Charter. What? The decisions are final, and it wasn't even signed. It's like some anonymous UN bureaucrat robot. So we sent a letter. Can you click on the PDF link? Go down a little bit more. Down. Oh yeah. You see where it says here's a full? Yeah. Click on that. Okay, down. Where's the letter? Yeah, there it is. Expand that. Yeah, expand that bigger. Click on the, yeah. So this is a letter we sent last night. Can you make it bigger? Perfect. From David Menzies. Subject, urgent, for the attention of Minister Hassan. Urgent. The Honorable Ahmed Hassan, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, via email. Dear Mr. Hassan, blacklisting of conservative journalists from UN Migration Conference. I am a Canadian journalist who has been working as a reporter, editor, broadcaster since I received my journalism degree from Ryerson in 1984. My full resume is appended to this letter. Number 2, I am writing because this week in Parliament you condemn my reporting about the UN as a conspiracy theory. I dispute this characterization. My reports on migration are based only on the facts, including my careful review of the Compact for Migration itself. I also report from the field. I went to Mexico. Given that you have publicly attacked my journalism as false, I would ask that you do me the courtesy of pointing out any particular factual errors that give rise to your criticism. Keep going. Number 3, I would normally not ask you for such a clarification, but at the same time as you and other senior Canadian government officials were condemning my reports, the UN made the surprising decision to refuse to grant me and my cameraman credentials to attend the UN conference next week in Marrakesh. And then we quote their weird explanations. This explanation is insufficient. We see nothing in the Charter of the United Nations that touches the issue of journalistic practices. As a consequence, we have to think that the reference to the UN Charter was mistaken. And instead, the intention was to refer to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 19 of the Declaration states as follows: everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. How is any reporting by Rebel Media of facts relating to matters of public interest and comments thereon in any way offensive to such right of expression? Even if it were the case that Rebel Media ran counter to the principles of the UN, it is part of a free press to challenge the political sensibilities of any public institution. And then let me read those 3 questions to him. Is the UN decision to ban me and my cameraman and anyone else at the Rebel based on paragraph 33C of the UN Global Compact for Migration? Is this a political punishment? Number 3, the next one, have you or anyone else in the Canadian government indicated that the Rebel ought to be blacklisted from reporting at UN conferences? Next one, do you believe that this ban is reflective of Canadian values? And then there's a 4th point I forgot about. If you value accurate reporting, as your accusation of conspiracy theories suggests, why wouldn't you want critical journalists to have access to all the facts at a conference about migration? Proposed remedy, point 4. I'm almost done. By this letter, I call on you to live up to our Canadian values of freedom of speech, independent journalism, and a respect for different opinions. As a party to this conference, I would ask that you immediately direct the United Nations to accredit me and my cameraman, and should they fail to do so, to deem me and my cameraman as part of your official delegation for purposes of admission only. Many Canadians, including many mainstream journalists, have warned that your government's $595 million media bailout would damage the independence of political journalism. Your attack on my journalism and the UN's refusal to accredit me to this important conference only add to the perception that you seek to control and stifle political criticism, something that paragraph 33C of the Compact itself contemplates. I call on you to prove that this perceived censorship is merely a conspiracy theory, by directing the UN to accredit me and my cameraman, or by making us part of the Canadian delegation for admission purposes only. As we are scheduled to fly to Marrakesh imminently, please reply to this letter urgently at menzies@tinder.com. Yours truly, David Menzies. No reply yet. Don't think we'll get one. I think free speech is a Canadian value. I think independent media is a Canadian value. I think challenging government institutions, whether it be national governments like Trudeau or supra-national governments like the UN, that's a Canadian value. I think Trudeau and Ahmed Hassan are violating Canadian values. Maybe Hassan's bringing in some of his Somali Sharia values, because where he comes from, they don't have freedom of speech, they don't have the right to criticize the government, and I think that maybe he is not fully cognizant that in Canada we have the right to speak back at our government, and the government doesn't get to punish me. The government can argue with Menzies. I don't even mind that the government called him a conspiracy theorist. He's not. But when that is tagged on to government actions like banning him, that's when it becomes a problem. The whole point of the United Nations, and Canada and America being part of it, is that our democratic liberal values go into the UN and to the world, not that we import their Somali-style censorship. What do you think? Super chat from Paul Forrest. $20. Will the newly elected 2019 Conservative government be able to reverse Trudeau's upcoming signature? Well, first of all, I admire your optimism. I have seen no polls that suggest that Conservatives will win the election less than a year away. I'm sorry. I remain a skeptic of that. But let us, for the purpose of this discussion, accept your premise that the Conservatives will win. I do believe that the Conservatives would back away from it. But then again, and I'm sorry to say it, Andrew Scheer is not the model of courage and conservative boldness. He just isn't. He's wishy-washy, he poll tests things. And remember, for a decade he was the Speaker of the House of Commons, which, unlike the Speaker of the House in the United States, is completely nonpartisan. Speaker of the House generally does not vote in anything, is more of a manager of the House of Commons, deals with things in private with all the parties, and so he's by nature a log roller, a deal maker, a smoother overer, a compromiser, a throw money at problemser. So for the formative years of Andrew Scheer's political career, he was I'm not going to say a lobbyist, but he had that kind of deal-making mentality, not hard edges, but smooth corners. I think he lacks a conservative instinct. He has the instinct of a bureaucrat, which is really what the Speaker of the House of Canada is in the House of Commons. It's 12:43. I want to show you one more thing. Go to Rebel UN, just the main website. If you go to rebelun.com, which is such an easy website to remember, rebelun.com, you will see that the Rebel Media is reporting at 2 UN conferences right now. And by right now, I mean in a couple days. We're going to the Global Warming Conference in Poland, Katowice, Poland. We are going to the Global Compact for Migration in Morocco. Both of those start in just a couple of days. Scroll down a teeny tiny bit. We have been to 3 UN conferences before. We went to the Nanny State Conference in New Delhi, India. I'm sort of glad I didn't go to that one, because our team, we had 4 people there. They said it was so smoky and smoggy they could barely breathe. Maybe that's not important. Maybe going to India is worth the trip anyways. We went to the Global Warming Conference in Bonn, Germany last year, and the year before, which also happened to be in Marrakesh, by the way. So these will be our 4th and 5th UN conferences, but they're trying to blackball us. Click on the UN Migration Conference one more time. Actually go back to that. Just turn that. Click up where it says support our journalism. Click on support our, perf. If you want to help us, people, we got to fly David and his videographer over to Marrakesh. We got to fly Sheila Gunn-Reid and her videographer to Poland. Obviously, we're not taking any of that $595 million slush fund from Trudeau. I think I've covered the bases now. If you want to go through 10 points in that UN Compact for Migration, find my video from 7 days ago, because that's what we did. I'll make another video about it, shorter than an hour. If you want to help us get David and Sheila on their way, please do. Please go to Rebel UN. Even if you can't help us or don't want to help us, that's fine. You can watch all our videos for free, of course. They will all be posted at rebelun.com, all the videos. David did 27 videos from the migrant caravan. I'm sure he will be equally productive in Marrakesh, Morocco. And Sheila will be too, at Katowice, Poland. All right, it is 12:45. We have a few minutes left, and I'm going to take the super chat. I think I've read all the super chats. So now I'm just going to read regular comments, okay? I'm just going to read them. Kendra Oppenheim, Hassan is a radical Muslim. I don't think he is a radical Muslim in terms of his theology. I think he is an open borders extremist. And I think he still has a very strong preference towards Somali migrants as opposed to his new identity as a Canadian minister. And I don't say that as an epithet. I say that based on statements I saw him made. It would take me, can you see if you can find the video? I saw it on Twitter saying that he was talking about Somali migrants to Canada who have a disproportionate interaction with the criminal law system, let me put it that way. And he was talking about expunging or minimizing their criminal records with the government. And I don't, if you can find that, great. I can't find that off the top of my head. Yeah, Ahmed Hassan. It was a little Twitter video where he was talking to Somalis about basically expunging their criminal records. I don't think you're going to be able to find it because I didn't describe it well. And we haven't used it on the show before. So when you're meeting with fellow Somali migrants and you're saying, yeah, guys, let's get those criminal records quashed, I don't think you've really transferred your heart and mind completely to your new country. Tell me if I'm wrong. It's not a racial comment. It's a citizenship, duty, responsibility comment. And he wants this radical immigration policy coming into Canada. I disagree with him. Craig McDonald, let's lighten things up a bit. It is Friday after all. Ezra, what's your favorite musical style? A favorite band? Do you play any instruments? Okay, fair enough. Craig, thank you. I actually studied piano for 8 years. Can you believe it? But I only tinker with it now. I played the saxophone in band. I was awful. I don't even like the saxophone. Favorite musical style? You're not going to believe me, but for the last, ever since I went to the Halifax Conservative Party convention, I've been on this odyssey to learn every sea shanty ever recorded. I'm talking not just about the favorites like Farewell to Nova Scotia or What Do You Do with a Drunken Sailor, but oldies and goodies like Farewell and Adieu to You Spanish Ladies. On Remembrance Day, we played Johnny, What Happened to You. I'm going to send you a vid, guys, because it's just, it's so good. It's Holloway Joe, this version of it, by the Eskies. Can you play that one? We don't have to play the whole thing. Haul Away Joe, Eskies, E-S-K-I-E-S. Can you find it? It's the first one that shows up. Okay. So I got to tell you, I'm a Jew, but I can't get enough of these Irish, British sea shanties. Closest I come to the sea is eating fish, but I just can't get enough of these songs. And are you guys ready with Holloway Joe? Here we go.
Are we in the right key?
Yeah, we are.
I don't know.
It's not too
Oh!
Right.
Shut up. They're mocking us. You ready? Now when I was a little boy, so my mother told me, Timmy, hey, haul away, we'll haul away, Joe, that if I didn't kiss the girls, my lips would grow all moldy. Timmy, hey, haul away, we'll haul away, Joe, up. Hey, haul away, the good ship now is rolling. Timmy, hey, haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. First I met a Yankee girl, she was fat and lazy. Hey, haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Then I met an Irish girl, she damn near drove me crazy. Timmy, hey, haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Up, King Louis was the king of France before the revolution. Timmy, hey, haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Up, but then they done cut off his head to spoil the Constitution. Timmy, hey, haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. St. Patrick was a gentleman.
It goes on for a while, I can assure you. And the great things about these songs is you can keep making your own lyrics, because there's no official lyrics for these songs. Some of these songs go back hundreds of years. I mean, Farewell and Adieu to You Spanish Ladies, that's a 400-year-old song. And obviously there was no recordings of songs back then. I mean, sometimes people would write them down, but they were songs that lived as folk songs. They would live with the sailors. Some had a naval focus, some were more pirate-oriented. I love the Atlantic Canadian ones, Barrett Privateers, one of my favorites. I love Stan Barrett's Privateers. That's just such a great song. It's a very Canadian song. Much more Canadian than Irish or British. Did you guys get my email, The Longest Johns? There's this band out there, and I'm almost done your question. There's just this a cappella group called The Longest Johns. And I like their style. And it looks like they were in a boat in Mexico, and so they sang on an iPhone from this little boat a great old song called Santa Ana that was named after Santa Ana. So this is an American sea shanty. You don't get a lot of those, do you? But there are all sorts of foreign interests there. Can you play maybe 2 minutes of Santa Ana? Take a look.
Oh, Santa Ana gained a day away, Santa Ana, Napoleon of the West, they say, along the plains of Mexico. Well, heave her up and away we'll go away, Santa Ana, heave her up and away we'll go along the plains of Mexico. She's a fast clipper ship and a bully good crew. Away, Santa Ana, and an old salt yank for a captain too. Along the plains of Mexico. Whoa! Heave her up and away we'll go. Away, Santa Ana, heave her up and away we'll go along the plains of Mexico. Well, Santa Ana fought for gold. Away, Santa Ana, around.
Right. You should not have asked me that question. You should have not asked me for my musical tastes. I apologize for my taste in music. But I love those guys. And they sing, there's just a terrible song called, anyway, I won't get into it, but there is just one. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. It's just 30 seconds. Did you get my last email? Don't play it yet. If you like the sea, and I was born in landlocked Calgary, Alberta, don't get farther away from the sea than that. I guess if I was from Saskatchewan, I'd be farther away from the sea. Manitoba's got the Hudson Bay up there. BC's got the Glorious Coast. Alberta, we got some puddles here and there, and we got a few little creeks, but it's pretty bone dry. So if you love the sea as much as this landlubber does, may I recommend Master and Commander. Obviously a series of novels. And one of them, Master and Commander, transformed into a movie featuring Russell Crowe and another famous actor whose name I can't recall. It is a great movie. It is exciting. It is action-oriented. It is battle scenes. It is cunning. It is personalities. There's some amazing scenes. The brain surgery scene. What would brain surgery be like on a boat 200 years ago? I tell you, there's a great scene where there's a lot of tattoo action in the Navy. A guy gets hold fast. Tattooed on his knuckles, hold fast. That's really his essence. I always say if I were ever to get knuckle tats, how do I really express the Ezra-ness of myself in tats? What would they say? I've seen a guy with love, hate, that ain't me. I would have beef ribs. BEEF-RIBS. Beef ribs. But that's just me. That's just me. The missus has had a few things to say about that, which is why I have not yet lived the dream. There's some great tattoo scenes there on the boat. I recommend that movie if you're into tattoos. Legit tattoos, not like, here's my Chinese restaurant takeout menu. Can you put that one over there? Or can I get the little barbed wire thing there? You don't see a lot of that out there, do you? Here's a 30-second singing, because they have a few sea shanties going on. This was the British, this is the Royal Navy, playing cat and mouse with Napoleon ships all the way around Brazil. I think they went around Tierra del Fuego or whatever, they're in the Pacific. Here's just a quick clip of Farewell and Adieu to You Spanish Ladies, a 400-year-old sea shanty from that movie, Master and Commander. Take a look.
To you Spanish ladies, farewell and adieu. To ladies of Spain, for we've received orders to sail for old England.
We hope in a short time to see you again.
Come all you bold young thoughtless men, a warning take mine.
Yeah, it's fun. And you'll learn a little bit of history if you're curious. What were the British sailors doing in Spain? Why were they saying farewell and adieu? Where were they going? If you're like me, you're interested. All right, someone writing in Greek letters says, I hope Scheer and Maxime are both smart enough to understand they need a coalition to beat Trudeau, otherwise we are massively screwed up the rear end. Well, I think it's almost a certainty that they will not reunify in time for the election, and frankly, at all, ever. Once you have that kind of a fissure, you just don't get back together. It was my advice that they work it out. I said so in several shows I did. I think Maxime Bernier would have been the heir apparent if and when Andrew Scheer loses next year, and he would have had all the party infrastructure, fundraising, MPs, credibility, staff at his fingertips. Now he's starting something from scratch. And he seems to be signing up a lot of people, but that's, when you get candidates and the whole thing, it's a whole level of complexity and undertaking, and I think it is going to vote split. That said, it's easy to understand why someone would want to split from Andrew Scheer, who's so tepid. The same person says, Max will not win on his own, or do you remember the whole Faith Goldie thing? Everyone was sure she was going to win, and she got 3.4%. Yeah, I don't think everyone was sure she was going to win. I think that was an internet fantasy from the beginning. It's 12:59, and I think there's one more super chat. Craig McDonald, farewell to Nova Scotia and Baird's Privateers by Canadian band The Real Mackenzies are the best versions out there. All right, I know it's 12:59, but I'm not going to say those aren't good versions, but Barrett's Privateers, sung by Stan Rogers. Sorry, I called him something else earlier. I'm going to stretch the show a little bit longer, and I'm just going to email my friends in the control room a version that is so good, you're going to be a convert. It's by Stan Rogers himself. I'm sorry, I think I called him something different earlier. And I think he's in Newfoundland. I'm not sure where he's based, in Newfoundland or Halifax. I'm sorry, I think he's a Haligonian. And he was there in his home, and that's really a great way to do it. You're sitting around, you got lots of drink going on. It's cold outside, but it's warm inside. You got it yet there? Okay. Here, just play a minute of this before we go.
On the 96th day we sailed again.
How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now.
When a bloody great Yankee hove in sight, with our cracked 4-pounders we made to fight.
God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears.
Now I'm a
Broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of ours for privateers.
The Yankee lay low down with gold.
How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now.
She was broad and fat and loose in stays, but to catch her took the antelope 2 whole days.
God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears.
Now I'm a
Broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of ours privateers.
And at length we stood 2 cables away.
How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now.
Our correct 4-pounders made an awful din, but with one fat ball the Yanks stove us in.
God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas.
Well, that's a great song. Barrett was crushed like a bowl of eggs, and the main truck took off both me legs. That's something that growing up as a landlubber in Calgary, it's just about the furthest place away, but yeah, it's, there you go. One last super chat from that Greek named fella who says, so that means we're done, Shear won't win alone and Max won't win alone, end of story, sad. Well, there's a lot of sad things going on in the world, and we do our best to fight. We do our best to shine the light of truth on them. We do our best to fight injustice and indignity where we spot it. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. We shouldn't only focus on the bad. David Menzies is going to do his best to shine light of public scrutiny on the UN Global Compact for Migration. I don't know if he'll be let into the convention. So far the UN says no. I don't know if he'll even be let into the country. We have to keep fighting, and sometimes it is darkest before the dawn. I know that's a cliche, but there's a reason it's a cliche, because it often comes true. I point out that in the last year alone in this country, we've seen Liberal parties lose from Ontario, where they got thumped, to Quebec, where they got thumped, to New Brunswick, where they were squeaked by, to Alberta is coming with Jason Kenney. Rachel Notley's going to get thumped. So the pendulum does swing. There are some things, though, that cannot be undone. And I think mass migration, as we've seen in Europe, is something that once you crack those eggs, you can't unscramble that omelet. That's why some fights are more important than others. We'll do our best here at The Rebel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chipping in. And thanks for allowing me to go on a 20-minute bender of my favorite sea shanties. Until next time, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, goodbye, and keep fighting for freedom.